Good afternoon, everybody. It is 12:59 p.m. on this Thursday, the 30th of August, 2018, second to last day of the month, second to last regular trading day of the month. 30th August 2018. Making sure that the mic was coming through okay this time, and it is. That's great. Okay, quick rundown here of what we've got going on. Talked about this a little bit yesterday regarding the price of Bitcoin and where we don't want to cross below is that 6,800. Really, I said 6,900, but 6,800 is kind of our kind of line in the sand area. If we look at the current price action, we see that we have this upwards channel that we're trading in. In fact, maybe or actually like a better representation would be a linear regression channel right here. And let's extend that out. If you hear noise, banging, or screwdrivers or all that stuff, it's because the contractors are here. So just be aware of that. Okay, looking at what we've got going on. Yeah, linear regression channel looks better. So if we take the swings here, we have this upwards trending channel. And, if we look at what the price behavior is like since we had this drive down at the end of July to where we are now, it looks like we have almost like a bearish flag forming here. And when we discussed this yesterday, we were talking about kind of the warning signs of what would happen if we start to move lower. So if we were to break the 6,800 level, which would essentially bring us below this band, then we come back down to test 6,600 and the 45-degree angle, maybe this trend line here. So there is some support here, but really, if we were to zoom out here and look at this on like the daily chart, we are forming the rounding of a right shoulder in a head and shoulders pattern. So we got to be aware of that and careful of that as we're moving forward. But again, just like I hate how it does this. The regression channel looks a lot different on the daily than it does if we put it on the 4 or the 1 hour. So right now we're finding support at the middle of the channel. This is exactly the kind of things we want to see. We want to see volume come into these areas. We want to see, which we don't see right now. We don't see the volume, but we see some responsive buying off of these levels. But if I were to look at this like on a 5-minute chart, folks, I don't like the price action. We've got a double trend lines here that we could just kind of eyeball, and it's very risky. This just looks like a continuation to the downside. So, yesterday I was talking about taking profit. Nobody went broke taking profit early. It's a good idea to peel some off, excuse me, because this does not look very healthy. And as we're getting longer into the afternoon, we will see that this is the time of day where things like to drop or pop. And right, that's exactly what we're looking at. Yesterday, somebody asked if we could go over the Gann analysis and review how to trade with Gann. And that would take more than a month's worth of sessions to understand Gann, because it takes a lifetime, I think, to understand that man's work. But as far as setting up the geometry and how to do it, I use Gann would square a range. So I'm just going to take a brand new chart here. Actually, this brand new chart, new chart layout. And what we're going to look for, we want to go to a daily chart if we can. And it doesn't matter what instrument you pick. actually I'm going to go to a weekly. There we go. So I've got the weekly chart, and we want to identify where the all-time low is, and the all-time high. So if I'm looking back here, I see the all-time low is here at for Litecoin. The all-time low is at 326. Okay, I know that. And then the all-time high is right up here. So if the instrument you're looking at has the all-time low before the all-time high, then you will be squaring a range from a low to a high. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to get a horizontal line, and I'm going to put that right at the top there. Doesn't matter what color it is. We just want that line there. Okay, that's going to be a line that we draw to. Next thing we want to do is we want to square our chart. Now, the only way that Gann works is if you square a chart and you square it consistently. So we're going to go to settings, and we're going to go to scale, and then this is where you kind of got to use a little, common sense or kind of eyeballing things. But so I'm just going to use a 5, so price to bar ratio of 5. So that's what I have going on there. So 5. But then this is what you don't want to do. After you set that, don't scroll out or in. Fingers off the scroll wheel, because what happens is if we go to settings, we can see that we changed the scale. So we want to go to 5 and then hit OK, and then there I am, and I can just left click and drag, and that's what I'm doing right there. Next, what I want to do, sorry about that, is I want to get the Gann fan, or not the Gann fan, I'm sorry, the Gann square fixed. Okay, Gann square fixed. I'm going to put that down here on the low. If you have the magnet tool, it'll automatically put it down there for you. It'll zoom it up just like that. I'm going to move the mouse out like this. Okay, so I know that if I look, I'll see that the 45-degree angle intersects the red horizontal line of the all-time high. Then I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to go and get the Gann box, and I'm going to throw that down here, same spot, and I'm going to drag that box all the way up to where the 45-degree line, that's this middle green line and the Gann fixed square, where that intersects. Close to it, or as close to it as I can. All right. Good enough for an example. And then I can delete the Gann square. And then what I can do is I can right click anywhere over here, and I can go back to auto fits data to screen. And there I have my square. And then all I do is I just clone this, and I'm going to move it next to it right here. I want to make sure it's lined up. And when we go to a daily, because we can go back to a daily now, we may have to change it a little bit. Looks like we're okay. But anyway, so this is actually this is a squared range. All right, so this creates the geometry that you would trade inside Litecoin, and then you would just extend these squares out as you go along. As long as the all-time high and the all-time low remain where they are at, then this is the structure that we trade. So if we bring this down maybe to the 4-hour, and we look back, we can see, do these zones match up? Oh, one note. I bet you're wondering, okay, when I select my Gann box tool, you're probably asking, why doesn't it look like mine? Yours probably looks like, if I hit the, oops. If I go to default, it looks like this. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit angles, and it'll paint the angles, and then these sliders where it adjusts for the opacity, just slide those off there. And the price levels, I mean, this is a Gann box, which is kind of a fancy name for any tool used to create any of Gann's squares. And then these levels that are here, they're all fib levels, but they're not what Gann used. But Gann's angles are pretty close to fib levels, but you can leave them there if you want to, or if you don't want to. That's totally up to you. But yeah, that's there. I mean, in the time cycles, because we use different time cycles, we're not going to really be worrying about the the uh, the time cycle, the timelines. I mean, the 50% one can stand there, but otherwise, the other ones don't matter. So looking at this here, we see that the angles actually do act as a pretty strong area of structure, support, and resistance. And remember that the rule of angles that Gann had said that when you break an angle, you will move to test the next one, and so forth. So this is the square for Litecoin, and if I'm looking at Litecoin right now, so our responsive angle right here is this angle here. That's our support zone. If we were to break this angle lower, where would we go? We'd go all the way down to the 44 area. And that's with Litecoin. All right, and you can use in conjunction with these angles. You can use oscillators, like a fast or slow oscillator, or bounded or unbounded, to kind of get an idea of how prices may respond as they approach these zones. The other the other component to this, excuse me, is identifying the time cycles. So there's a couple ways that we can use time cycles, and one of them is called the law of vibration, and that's a 192-day cycle, and that starts at any significant high or low, and then you plot it out 192 days. So it starts the day after. All right, starts the day after an all-time high right there, and there's our first day, and then we plotted out 192 days. So there's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, seventh toolbar here. We go to date range. I'm just gonna move this out to 192 days. 192 days is what I want. Almost. 192, there we go. I'm going to put another vertical line there. So blue tells me that that's where things begin and end. And then we separate them by 45 days. So if I go 96 days is the midway point, and I put another line in here, but I like to put it like a lighter blue so I know. Oops. And then every 48 days, actually every 24 days, I'm sorry, every 24 days there is a cycle. So there's one. And there we go. And then here we've got red. And then we've got green. All right. Same thing we're going to do over here. Oops. Make it a little faster. Red. And yellow. Oops. Okay. Cool. There is our time cycles. Better put them out for over here too, just so we have them. Slide this guy over. And then this one. All right, Cool. All right, so these are the this is the law of vibration, the 192-day cycle, looking at those areas. And then what's important to look at is we generally see a short or a long-term trend change happen at these cycles. So, you know, the ones that cause the most amount of reversals are the 2/8, the 4/8, and the 6/8. They're just the red and the blue. Those are the ones where you find the most pivot in price action based on time cycles. So that's what we've got going on there. And we can really, I mean, that just seems to play out pretty frequently where, you know, this was a continuation move, and then we had a bounce just a little bit after this cycle here, and then not much happened here, but then right here we see that this pivot in time actually acted right on as a pivot against a pivot in time against that trend. So, you know, that's and then we see that there was a little bit of a bounce here based on the new time cycle. So just something to look at there. We can zip on over to the hourly and look and see how these react too. And I, you know, trading this type of structure makes really any type of market a little easier to trade, I think, because it kind of gives you a blueprint of what's going on. You know, certainly it gives you an easier direction to trade. So certainly if I know that, okay, right here, we've been testing this angle, and we have not been seeing any real responsive buying to the upside. Once it breaks and is tested, then I know that we move down to test the next one, and that is exactly what we have play out here. And so if we're looking at the current price action, you know, we broke this angle, fell down, we found support on it, we've tested back up, and we've been kind of ping-ponging around here for a little while. So really no clear direction other than we're just trading the slope of this, and that is up. If we look at like Bitcoin's squared range, actually I don't have a squared range of Bitcoin on here. I have a 192 square, but well, we could square Bitcoin. Actually, we could do that. Again, I'm going to go to the weekly. And I know that the all-time lows back over here. And so to square Bitcoin's chart, okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get that horizontal line on there. Then I'm going to square my chart. Maybe 150 is actually okay. Yeah, 150 seems to be okay. The square doesn't matter. The square doesn't matter. You could square it however you want to do it. But as long as you can, you know, because the thing with Gann's work and really just, and you can introduce Bill Williams' theory to this as well, is that think of a square kind of like a snowflake. Not that it's easily insulted and needs a safe space, but that it is a fractal. The shape of it and the pattern is a fractal of another square. So, you know, that the angled relationship doesn't matter how we square it as far as the ratio of the square, because it's still, everything has the same geometric mean in market geometry. So it's just one's going to look easier to trade off of than the other. So we got that horizontal line. I know where the all-time low is. I'm going to get the Gann square fixed here and use this tool. Here's the 45-degree angle. That's what I want to see. Now I'm going to do the Gann box. I'm going to drag it up along. Oh, you know what? I just realized it'd probably be easier to do this. Hit the angles. And I don't want the time cycles. I'm just going to make sure the 45 of the square intersects with the 45 there, and it matches that horizontal level. Excellent. Can delete the other square there. I can go back to auto fit. Going to clone that square and put it on top over here. Excellent. And then I'm going to go to the daily. Make sure that that square is still lined up. It is. Cool. And I'm going to bring it down to the 4 hour again. And let's see what we got going on. So on the 4 hour chart, Bitcoin, yeah, it's a tradable square. Definitely. Yeah, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, maybe it'd be better. Let's see what it looks like if we were to square it from the low. You're not supposed to do this, but and Gann never said to do it this way, but I don't see why you can't, because I've done it with some charts before and it works. I don't think I've ever done this with Bitcoin, or maybe I have. So we just do the inverse of what we did. So instead of we're going to put this at the all-time low. We're basically going to do the same thing we did before. It's got it squared at 150. Oh, you know what? Come back. And settings. Might do that. That's fine. Gann square fixed. I believe that'll extend all the way down there. Probably will. That's fine. If you end up with a screen like this, this is just a little bit more tedious, but you just got to do a little bit of dragging. Just keep dragging this down until you intersect that horizontal line, which is right here. All right, there we go. Now I can right click on the scale there, go to auto fit, and then there is that. I'm going to clone it. Want to see how it past price action responded to this. Probably does just the same. And we're going to go to the daily. I think I actually like this one better. Go to 4 hour. What do we see? It gets to really tight ranges there, man. I don't know if I do like this square or not. What are we trading right now? I mean, yeah, actually, I like this square a lot better. Hello, Jamu. Makes sense to me. So that's one way to do it. That's one way to look at it. As far as let's take a look at what we've got going on and moving right now. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin. Whoa, I was just looking at foreign currencies. They took a nosedive. Holy cow. Like within the last couple minutes. Yeah, jeez. Aussie dollar did. Gold didn't do anything. Pound didn't do. Maybe it's just the Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar that took a big nosedive. Oh well. It broke its trend line. I think my short got activated. Yes. Okay. Small distraction. Looking at where we go, where do we go, where do we go, where do we go? All right, Bitcoin. Ugh, do not like this. This is just a sign of weakness. This may just get sold off here. There's not there's very little volume participation. There's very little buying. There's clearly not any buyers that want to step in right now to buy this back up. You know, it's broke this previous trend line. It's been rejected at the 50% fib level between the two most recent large swing zones. It's it's not finding any support here. This is kind of what we were talking about yesterday, and looking at a warning sign on it. The fact that this is forming the right side, the right shoulder of a regular head and shoulders pattern, and that it is also it's also part of a bear flag, kind of exacerbates the entire structure, where a down move is very easy, and it would be very fast, and it would be very effective to go through. I know the other thing though is that currently, and actually over the last, come on, TradingView, over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, we've remained above this level here. We've been able to stay above it, but really, I mean, we're kind of forming just a continuation pattern here, and even on this small time frame, we can see that this little itty bitty triangle here, we've just got essentially just a little pennant. And if we break below this, that's probably just another continuation move lower. I'd be surprised if we held this as support. So I'm happy my finger was on the trigger finger for exiting long positions yesterday, because it just looked a little ugly. Really not seeing a whole hell of a lot of area for it to find any support until we were to get down here. But then, I mean, there's really nothing below this except for this 45-degree angle. That's about it. This previous trend line, which wasn't really strong anyways. Yeah, it's not a pretty looking chart for the time being, but a pullback should be expected. The thing is though, that if we do, for some reason, between 6,500 and 6,800, if we do see some support come in on the buying, then any rally from there, then I really see that as a major trend reversal that would extend for 45 or 90 days, where any of the dips should, is something that I would definitely be buying the dips. But there's no change currently in the trend yet. Well, that's not true. I mean, we've actually had a change in the trend ever since the end of February, beginning of March, where we actually exited the bear phase, and now we've just been stuck into a consolidation phase on a yearly basis. So we've been in a consolidative range for quite a few months. It's one of the longest that Bitcoin's ever seen before. But we are getting into the seasonality of bullish movements in cryptocurrencies, so not a lot of change here. Yeah, we can just see that this actually moved lower. 6,800 does not look like an area that will hold. More than likely further downside pressure. That is a very likely scenario. I'm trying to see if there was any news that showed up on our hear their music playing downstairs. Nope, not really. I didn't see a dang thing that said anything about that, so not going to worry about it. Looking at the other altcoins, we see Cardano's also kind of at a key important area. We've got these 3 trend lines from this consolidation breakout. These have been holding as resistance. This was attempting to hold as a support zone, fell through, and now we've got a little support zone holding here. If Cardano falls below that 97, then we probably make an all-time low on it. At least on this chart, we would see Cardano make a new all-time low below the 0.79 cents zone. Or actually, we probably just retest it. Probably just retest that zone. That would be the more likely scenario. Walton Chain is actually caught a bid and is outperforming the market. Nano is not. Nano, my resting buy order did get triggered. So, I mean, that one's up still. And I'm fine with that. Nano, Walton Chain outperforming the market. There's really not anything else that is showing any NXC. What is a weird one? Nulls is up quite a bit. Dogecoin and cash. Looking at these percentage changes, yeah, just really not a lot of activity. Period. And again, I really want to point this out. If we look at the volume, oops, what the hell? Go to if we look at the volume here, I want to look at it on the weekly chart. And let's hide all the stuff. This is the lowest volume week we've traded since February in 2017. So, actually January of 2017. We've got actually a couple days. I mean, we've got a few days left in the week, but this is one of the lowest traded weeks in quite a long time. There's just been really very little to no participation, and this is actually constant in a lot of markets, and that is related a lot to the seasonality. I mean, the last couple weeks of August, first week of September is often a time where you see that people go on vacation, basically. Last kind of summer hurrah. On the daily chart, we even see that the volume is currently still less than yesterday, and the day that we had that high hit of 71.28, there was some good volume in there, but yesterday's volume dropped off considerably, and then we still have lower volume even still today, and it is continuing to test lower and lower at 88.50. Bring it down to a 15-minute chart, we can see that there's really no support here. This is more than, well, maybe even while we're talking, we'll see this dive. Yeah, on the 15-minute chart, it failed to crawl back up here. It tested it. So more than likely on the next 15-minute candle, we'll see a sell-off. A BART. We'll see this kind of candlestick. The inverse of this one right here. But yeah, so that is pretty much what we've got in front of us right here. Not looking at any trade ideas. I want to see what is happening as far as where we're going to hold, if we find support or not. I'm more inclined to short this market than I am to go long in it right now. I've dumped a lot of my long positions, except for the ones that are just, that I'm just hodling. Uh, because we're not finding any strong support off of this pullback, there's really no. I mean, I've got resting buy orders where they were sitting from yesterday on some of those trade ideas, but otherwise not looking at any type of really clear entry unless we see some responsive buying step in on Bitcoin. Because if this is just going to be a slow bleed followed by some muted recovery, pullbacks, and bear flags and bear pennants, then you know, longs are not really the thing to do. It's time to short on whatever instrument you can short it on. So yeah, days like today, they happen. You know, we had 9 days of straight up movement, and a pullback is warranted. Hopefully it's not a deep pullback below to make new yearly lows, but we'll just watch and see how it pans out. As I'm talking, we'll probably see this do a little bit of a nosedive. Bitcoin is often called the most technical market on the planet. In fact, the piece of software that I use, Optima by Market Analyst, some of you probably saw that from last week, where I pulled up the blog where he calls it the perfect technical market, and it's because Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, they seem to follow the rules all the time. Like, this is a bearish continuation pattern, and so this is a small bearish continuation pattern on a larger bearish continuation pattern that flag. What's the likelihood of Bitcoin closing below all-time high this year? I'd say it's pretty likely. I mean, it's that would really depend on this move, because this is the most recent, quote, rally that we've had in a while, in like over a month. And so it'll be interesting to see. I think this move that we're seeing play out right now, this is going to be more important to see what short interest is there versus what kind of bullish trading is there. Because I mean, we know what the bullish sentiment is. It's like almost non-existent, but we don't know really how much of the retail trading market is still heavy short. Bitcoin gold. Yeah, we've got it's this guy's actually been working in tandem with. I mean, I tell you, Bitcoin gold is actually one that I've been hodling, because this chart has not really responded to much movement at all, even over the past 9 days. I mean, yeah, it's decided to crawl up a little bit, but it hasn't had any breakthroughs. And Bitcoin gold is actually a really, I mean, it got hit pretty hard this year when it had what is that called? I forgot what it was. That hack. It wasn't really a hack, but they were able to gain control over most of the hash rate, so they were able to like suck up a lot of Bitcoin gold. Bitcoin gold, I'm still holding a chunk of it, and I'm fine holding on to it. I think Bitcoin gold actually has a lot of positive future, a good future to it. Yeah, there's really not a lot technically to look at, other than it has just been following the overall market, but in a very, very, very tiny way. The price action is lagging quite a bit. In fact, if I were to compare Bitcoin's gold's chart to any chart, I would say that this is like Nano's chart from, a couple weeks ago. That's what I would compare this chart to. Bitcoin, yeah, but still experiencing some selling here. We're seeing that form some strong sells. And if we look at it's coming down to test that regression line. the middle. It's not going to take much to push this market over into bearish territory. Yes, Mohammed, I am. I'm holding. Um, okay, I've got Cardano. I've got quite a bit of the quote. I call them the Coinbase 5. That's actually, I don't have any ZRX or ZEC. I just have Cardano, basic attention token, and Stellar Lumens. So ADA, XLM, and what did I say? Contractors. And XLM, Stellar Lumens. So I have that. I have some Lisk. I have EOS that I hold. Blockchain protocol. What else? Nano, Walton Chain, and I don't think I'm missing out on anything else. And Bitcoin Gold, of course. Yep, that's what I hold on to. Yeah, now we're watching this do exactly what I was talking about. That while we were talking, we would see this sell off here. And that's what we have happening. See what happens when we look at 6,800 when that hits. There are 0 participants on the buy side in here. This is broke 6,800, sitting at 67.91. Any relief to come in? Nope. Not at all. So what we want to see, what we want to watch happen right now is we want to see this entire area hold and trade higher. If it doesn't hold, we move down here. If this breaks, if we break 6,600, we will more than likely retest that 6,000 zone and maybe even lower. We could make a new yearly low, or we could create a new, or match it. So, there's a probability each way, but yeah, there has to be. I mean, if we'll know if this is gonna get bought up and move higher. I mean, you'll know it. There's just no evidence of it right now. It's a screaming short sell right now. There's nothing right now that looks long. We talked about it yesterday. What in the world was that sound? Yep. Really not seeing a whole lot of anything that would make me scream bullish. What does a linear regression channel look like on the daily but drawn with that high, I wonder? Oh, that's not what it. Yeah, I want to do the cleaner chart. If we go from this swing to this swing, what do we got? I really believe that's just the one I did, but on a shorter time frame. Well, the daily is calculating this differently. Yes, EOS is a nice one. EOS, I'm surprised. I definitely think EOS is going to be much bigger. I mean, if the news about EOS back in June with the release of the mainnet, if that happened last year around the fall, that would have been like who knows how expensive that coin would have been. But EOS is certainly there's a whole crap ton of projects that are Well, and in fact, I should stop there because um, when people say that there's a lot of, oh, they have all these dApps and all these applications, utilities on these blockchains. Yeah, but who is using them? Who outside of the handful of people trading cryptos or involved in the sphere, who is actively utilizing those? Like, what is? I mean, it's like saying I have a MySpace account again. It really has no value yet. So, until things become much, much more mainstream, I mean, the argument for EOS being a source of great growth is kind of pointless. But I still, personally, I think EOS is a nice growth and value candidate. I hold EOS. I'm a fan of EOS. I don't know if anybody else was holding EOS, and then what was it called? What did we have to do with it? We had to delegate it in June. Yep, yep, Santosh, you're yep dead right there. Yeah, there's so many airdrops of EOS that I have yet to. I mean, some of them you don't have to claim, but that's the other thing is that even people who are traders and speculators in other markets, it's difficult to transition into cryptos because this entire airdrop process. First off, the airdrop process I think is, I mean, value through inflation. The airdrop process is so confusing as far as you have to like figure out where your what wallet will support any of the airdrops, if at all. And then you've got to go to the blockchain and find your account name, and then it'll tell you what you have and available. And it's like, oh, I have what was the Evipedia? It's like the Wikipedia alternative. Everpedia. I have I don't like what 30,000 Everpedia or something or more, or 300,000 Everpedia. But what do I do with it? I mean, it's not a. I think you can trade it on Bitfinex, but I mean, other than that, who knows? Until EOS gets to a place like where Ethereum is at, where you have all of these other cryptos built off of the Ethereum blockchain, EOS is just kind of meh. But I still have, I'm still holding it because it is a completed ecosystem. So yeah, that's exciting. Um, but looking at this on the daily, folks, this is a tight area here, and it's a hard area to get above. I mean, if this is the daily chart and it's saying that the top of the support zone is right here, if this holds the support, awesome. But it looks different on this is a trading view anomaly. Okay, and now trading view. If we drew it the way we just did, now it says we're below that regression channel. Oh, this sometimes trading views funky, but anyways, yeah, not really no trade ideas do I have right now. The trade ideas from yesterday that are resting buy orders are still there. They're still active. Um, Somebody may ask, well, if you're willing to buy Bitcoin if you have a resting buy order for Bitcoin at 72.22, why don't you just hang on to this and go long? And it's one of those things. Well, I'm not willing to risk an early entry here to wait for it to come back. I'd rather let everybody else duke it out and then move up. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. I'd rather let everybody else duke it out. That's one of the things that you read in a lot of old school trading manuals, and even modern, is that don't force the market. Let the market convert to you. So if I want to go long because I'm going to buy above the current price action, and that's not the same as as newbie traders buying the tops and newbie traders selling the bottoms. There's a difference between buying when there's a confirmation to buy, and versus just assuming it may get up there and then buying down there. So from a trading perspective, I want everybody else to fight it out down here, and then I will just join the winning team as it travels up here if it does. So That's the way I look at it. And I'm perfectly fine waiting to see if it comes up there, and I'm perfectly fine waiting to short if we get a breakdown. Now I'll be shorting. Um, if we break below that 6,600, and then if we get a retest back into the channel and it fails, then I'll definitely want to short. But otherwise, just kind of sitting here waiting in neutral. 6,800 is looking kind of weak. There's definitely no buyers stepping in to support this at all. You don't even need to look at an order book. The price action itself tells you how weak the price action is. So it sucks if you're a bull, but I mean, this stuff happens. This isn't anything new. This has been the whole yearly trend. Shouldn't be a surprise. But again, I'm going to say this. If this ends up between now and when we talk again tomorrow, if for some reason these levels hold or we start trading back into the 7,000s, then my mind, no, it's 19.99 for the whole month, Muhammad. For the whole month. Yep, just 19.99 per month. Oh my God, I feel horrible charging $20 a day. I mean, actually, that'd be kind of cool because that's quite a bit of money. But I mean, no. Yeah, we do crypto. We do forex in the morning and then crypto in the afternoon. Astrological view of Bitcoin, certainly. And actually, I can actually read for you. I'll just read what I have written from my long-term forecasts. If I can, where did I put it? I thought I had it on the desktop. So, I have down that there's between May and August of 2018, I have written that. Oh, what did I just do with You know what? I know what I did. I just. Okay, so okay, 2018, May through August 2018 is indicative of like needing some type of removal from government intervention, and there. Okay, so when we enter, I won't go through all the phases of what's going on in between May and August, but it's indicative of governments wanting to have a strong influence over monetary policy. There are drastic changes in interest rates during these times, and that just kind of matches up with what's happening with the Fed rate, so that works out perfectly. Then August through October of 2018 is indicative of things being fixed, and that there should be in cryptocurrencies a strong and successful adaptations in the crypto market. Where, so I mean, that's probably just talking about successful adaptation to constraint is really indicative of regulatory approval process, and that is really what we have happening here. That's kind of a big thing, and a lot of IPOs kind of pop up in the fall too. So that's a favorable environment for Bitcoin. And then November to February of 2019 is there's some weakness right away in November, and then a pause in behavior from late November to January, and then we get into some type of I wrote down here education, analysis, lessons. I don't know where I was going with that, March through May of 2019 should be an extremely positive. This is kind of a weird one. We should get an extremely positive cryptocurrency market wide positive from governments and from just people in general. There will be probably major changes in the where volume is centralized as far as how many exchanges will be controlling the significant amount of the traded volume, and there'll be probably it won't be like a really fun time March through May. That is usually indicative of a manipulative phase. For it's May through August of 2018 was supposed to be where we see Bitcoin kind of become part of the entire global financial system. And that may be extended into a year from then. So probably we'll see if that happens in May. There's a lot of things that are overlapping as far as the right now but the issue with that is there's a really strong negative behavior during that phase, because the concentration of the traded volume. See, and this is where we just kind of gotta, like, I hate saying use the imagination, but what that means, if there's a concentration of the trading volume into only a few select exchanges, that means that globally there is a shutdown of many exchanges in many countries. And so that means that the only the ones left are the only ones that are active. And that would fall into the manipulation. And then there's a strong Saturn and Uranus negative aspect that is kind of blowing everything up into a badness right there. So March through May of 2019, one of those 1 or 2 months in between there are going to be very, very yucky. And at the end of those months are going to be the time I'm going to be looking to buy, because those will probably be the most violent downturn months, and that'll be something we'll kind of see play out depending on the price action. So, but yeah, certainly there is August through October of 2018 should be very bullish, but then that late November through February is one where we get probably our biggest bear move. But yeah, it'll be Bitcoin adoption to constraints will happen, then the correct Bitcoin usage occurs. Yeah, it'll be basically what we're looking for is the August through October 2018 is government, some type of government, positive government approach, or what's the word I'm looking for? Something positive with Bitcoin will happen with government, whether that's positive regulation, whether that's the conversion of something different, who knows, but that is something that happens between August and October. And that makes total sense, because the SEC, again, if you everybody probably knows that the SEC has denied 9 Bitcoin ETFs, but Commissioner, what's her name? She's one of the 5 commissioners of the SEC. She wrote a dissenting opinion. So basically what she did is she really excoriated the SEC employees that work for the commission, and she really went after them for denying the Bitcoin ETFs, specifically the Winklevoss one, where she said that according to all the other things, everything that is required for an approval process, then that the Winklevoss ETF met the criteria to be an ETP or an ETF. They call them ETPs. Anything that's like an ETF or an ETN or Those are all ETPs. But it's very, very probable that, the commission is going to approve at least one or some of those denied ETFs, and that's a big deal, right? That's a really big deal. And I loved what she wrote in her dissent about the SEC's reason for the denial. One of the big ones that they kept talking about was they could not conclude that the Bitcoin market wasn't going to be manipulated. So her response was something like, if that is the defining reason of why something is approved or not approved, why do we allow the trading and investing in other instruments that are clearly manipulated, that we have evidence of manipulation for, like the silver market, oil, equities in general? I mean, I think you'd struggle to find anything that you can invest in or speculate in that is not manipulated. And silver being probably one of where governments and big banks were involved in the fixing of that. So, I mean, that was just crap. The reasons for the denials were just absolute crap. So I would expect them to get approved and talk about a rally. So that's something to look forward to. Anyways, 2:00. My time is up. Keep an eye on these markets. We're sitting at a pretty important zone right now. At the end of the hour of 2:00, we actually, if I zip down to the 5-minute, we actually, if you notice, this is a big volume bar that jumped in and that bought up those prices. So we'll see if we actually do get a nice bounce here or not. Otherwise, we'll probably just keep drifting lower. We'll have to see how that plays out. Anyways, you guys, I hope you've had a great trade day. Hope the rest of your day yesterday was well. Hope you've had a good trading week so far. Again, please like and subscribe. This is going, tomorrow is our last free session, and we're going to a paid room after that. And yeah, hope some of you join us, and look forward to talking to you every day, Monday through Friday, minus some, like random things that may appear, but otherwise I'm pretty available. And we have a Telegram group. We have a Slack. So, and I trade for a living, and I'm always here. So I like that we're able to provide platforms where people can get a hold of me, and I can hopefully answer questions as needed throughout the day. So anyways, what I'm saying is I don't think the service is just going to be relegated to just the Forex session and the crypto session. The access is going to include, the trade signals and we're also, the Slack channel where you'll be able to, ask questions throughout the day, and I'll do my best to answer them as they pop up. Or if I notice something funky, like holy shit, get GTFO, Ethereum, something like that. That's what the $20 a month for this service is freaking cheap compared to what is out there. I think $20 a month is a very fair offer. It's a very affordable offer, I think, because there are some services out there that just it's criminal and just sick. Anyways, oh yeah, you'll we'll get that answer for you here. I have it. I don't know if I have it pulled up. I always forget these things. See, this is actually the greatest arrangement. Because there's three of us. I'm the trader and educator, but I've always wanted to do something like this, but I just don't have the know-all to do all the marketing that's involved, like the email campaigns, the social media stuff, the infrastructure for setting up all these social. I mean, this is people who do this on their own are nuts. So I'm very happy that this is a team effort between me and two other guys. We do this together, and like I could not do what I do without the other two doing all the other stuff in the background. So I mean, they're answering support. They are setting up all sorts of different other meetings. Like I go on the radio quite a bit on Sirius XM to talk about stuff, and yeah, it's just it's an awesome brand that we're developing, and happy to be a part of it, and I'm happy to be offering something of value that is relevant and useful for people in the trading sphere. So anyways, again, have a great I'm getting a man crush over the internet, over the interwebs. Oh man, it's a good thing my wife does not is not here when I do these live sessions. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.